Castles. It's something that we've all wanted since the ripe age of 6. And since I just stopped breastfeeding yesterday, I'm going to share my guide with you guys on how to get a castle. Now, I want to hit you guys with a hard disclaimer up front. This process seems to be a little bugged right now. So what I'm going to do is this video is going to cover how to become a mercenary and a vassal, as well as just kind of a light overview on vassalage. And then we're going to go into my experience with trying to recreate getting a castle. Now, a castle seems to be, again, a little bugged, so I apologize if I repeat myself a little bit during the explanation of this process bit. Originally, I sought out to make a guide for this, but it ended up becoming more of a series of tests. And these tests kind of conclude that getting a castle is somewhat, well, inconclusive. Once we get to that section, we can kind of go over it, and I'll kind of give you guys a preface about it. But I essentially did 4 tests that we'll outline right before we jump into the castle section. But first, let's go over how to become a mercenary or a vassal, because both of them are actually pretty crucial to both increasing your renown, so you have the proper tier rank to become a vassal, and vassal in and of itself is required to then get a castle. So let's dive on in and take a look at some of these features. All right, so here we are on the campaign map, and before we dive into becoming a mercenary or a vassal, you have to decide which kingdom you're going to do it for. Obviously, I'm taking a look at my map, and I wanted to become a vassal eventually of Vlandia. Now, here's the thing with a vassal versus a mercenary. A mercenary, you can pretty much choose any nation, and just like you can for a vassal, but if you decide you don't want to become a mercenary, you lose 20 relations with all of the lords of that respective nation. If you do it as a vassal, if you drop out of becoming a vassal, if you break the word, as it is your oath, then you lose quite a bit more. So mercenary is more of like a, hey, I'm just trying to get some quick money and build my renown, and if I leave this nation, it's not going to affect me too much. But if you do it as a vassal, it's pretty damning. So what I would say is, if you want to become a mercenary, and that's what you really should do. So pop up your clan tiers. If you're tier 1, then you can become a mercenary. If you're tier 2, you can become a vassal. Obviously, you can't become a vassal if you are not tier 2. Now, before you decide where you want a vassal or where you want a mercenary, what you should really do is find out who is at war with who, and if that kind of conflicts with your plans. Like, for instance, let's say you started over here in Poros, wherever it is on the map, right here, and, you know, I just want to be a mercenary of any one of the empires. You know, you've got the Western, well, this would have been Southern Empire if it hadn't been completely destroyed by everything, and the Northern Empire. I want to be one of their mercenaries because I eventually want to be a vassal of Vlandia. That's exactly the route I took. Well, this kingdom menu would tell you exactly who's at war with who, and it would be a very handy thing to see prior to choosing a mercenary or a vassal, but you can't. So instead, you're going to press N, and you're going to go over here to Kingdoms, and you're going to click whichever empire you want to become a mercenary of first. Let's just go Southern Empire, because that's what I did. And you see who they're at war with. That's always going to be displayed down here. So I can see that they're at war with Britannia and Khazate, Northern Empire, and these guys are minor NPC factions. So I don't want to vassal with any of these, or become a vassal of any of these nations, so it's fine, I can do this. But let's say I was looking at Britannia. Well, Britannia is, oh, sorry, no, I think it's actually Sturgia at this point in my saves. Yeah, so Sturgia is at war with Vlandia, and if I want to become a vassal of Vlandia, I would not go become a mercenary of Sturgia. This would reduce my relations with Vlandia as I raid and pillage through their entire territories. So make sure you take a look at N beforehand. Again, you're going to want to go from home to kingdoms and just choose the one you're going to mercenary with first. Once you do that, that's actually a good point. Let me bring this back up. So let's say you're going to become a mercenary of Vlandia, just because I'm right in front of the building. You're going to find the leader, because any ruler is going to send you to the leader. They'll say, hey, here's where he is on the map. You go to Durthert, the ruler. Okay, well, last seen near Chornad. Okay, well, that's where we're going to need to go. So we click this track button, and we're going to need to go over here to Chornad. So what we're going to do is we're going to charge on over to Durthert. And when we talk to him, we're going to basically say, hey, I would like to become a mercenary or a vassal. All right, so we found Durthard. He has a lovely little crown on, and we can say there's something I'd like to discuss. Now, I would like to enter your service. So here's where it gets a little different. So you've got two options here. My sword is yours for the right sum. That is your mercenary option. If you don't have a high enough clan tier, this option will be grayed out. It says, "My lord, I would pledge allegiance to you and be counted among your loyal followers." That is your vassal option. So choosing either one of these, mercenary for the first one or vassal for the second one, will set you on course to becoming a mercenary or a vassal. Now, with the mercenary, we'll just go ahead and press "My sword is yours for the right sum." And he says, if you fight for us, you will receive 15 gold whenever you defeat a party of enemies or any other significant deed. All right. So let's go back here real quick. And really the only things to keep in note for becoming a mercenary is this field right here. So this tells me that every day I'm going to get 15 gold per influence I have. Now, it's not going to cash out all at once. It's just going to kind of slowly chip away from it. But you can use this influence to basically get more and more money. As a mercenary, I would recommend selling all of your prisoners and your captured heroes to the tavern, because influence just isn't that worthwhile for you. You can't claim keeps or anything like that, but you can join armies. And if you join armies, then you can get a lot of money and a lot of good relations. But most importantly, you're going to build this up. You're going to build your renown up so you can get to clan rank 2, and that's going to help you out in becoming a vassal. Let's jump over to the vassal system. All right, so here's my save as a vassal, and I'm in an army right now. And vassal is a little bit different than mercenary. Well, in a lot of ways, actually. So for one, this influence system can actually be used as a secondary currency in the kingdom menu, and we'll bring that up in just a little bit. In addition to, you can vote on the rulership of castles after people have attacked and besieged them, especially if you're a part of them, obviously. You do a lot of things that can help out your individual playthrough. So let's bring up your kingdom. And you can see all of the fiefs, the clans, everything. And this is visible to you as a mercenary as well, but it's more pertinent to you if you're a vassal. And this is the screen I was talking about that gives you all the information of who's what. Like Britannia right now we're at war with, and we're struggling back and forth. So if I click over here to armies, I'm sorry, to policies. Well, this shows you the armies that are currently visible. I click over here to policies. I have a bunch of policies that I can enact in the in the kingdom, and that will actually be done on its own. You don't have to do any of these, but let's say, for instance, this one, Council of Commons. Each notable noble basically yields 1 influence per day to the settlement's owner clan. Daily militia production is increased by 1 per notable in the settlement. So this will help you out in increasing your influence. Trial by jury also has influence on things. Or if you come down here to military coronai, military achievements grant 30% more influence. So if you are romping and stomping through the land and you're doing a lot of damage to enemy towns, you're taking over castles, you're taking over cities, then you could propose the military coronai, which already has 100% support in the kingdom. You would take 50 influence, you'd propose it, everyone would vote on it, and it would then be enacted as a policy. So if you're doing a lot of military achievements to increase your influence, then boom, this is going to help you, because right as soon as you do that, you're going to be increasing the amount of influence you get per action, either attacking, siege, attacking, defending, or raiding villages. So it's really, really helpful to kind of tailor how you're playing through your game. Feudal inheritance, the cost of revoking a fief from a clan is doubled. Clans gain 0.2 influence for each fief they own. So remember, you own a clan. So as soon as you take over a fief by getting a castle or owning a town that's part of a castle or a city, then that is portion of your fief. Now, magistrates, town security is increased by 1 per day. Ruler clan gains 1 influence per day. Town taxes are reduced by 5%. So use these policies to really kind of cater your custom playthrough as you increase your fiefs in your respective kingdom. Now, owning your kingdom right now is a little bit of a difficult situation. I believe it's a little bugged. So I'm talking strictly about an NPC character's kingdom that you've joined. But let's go into castles now and that little bit of a hornet's nest that it is. So taking a castle, or at least getting a castle, is not that hard, but it is a little difficult. So right now, I've already kind of signed up to become a vassal of Landia, and through that, I wanted to get a castle. So I joined the army of Durthert, the major leader of Landia, and we went and took a castle of Britannia. So after you take a castle, if you jump into the whole kingdom, into the fief section, you'll get decision. Do you want to resolve owner of Thractori castle decision? It'll be automatically resolved in 6 hours. Let's go ahead and press OK. And we can see that for this situation, I actually believe this is not the castle we were part of, so we'll abstain. Now, I think that this might be a bug right now, but unless you can directly influence this either way, your lord will always vote for himself. And I think the tie always goes to the lord, so take a look here. We'll press abstain, even though Ingolthur has 100% of the vote. Oh, surprisingly enough, that actually worked. I've actually dealt with it a number of times in my own playthroughs where it did not go through like that, where the AI had like 98% and it still didn't give it to the AI. So that is just an example of one that you were not a part of. So let's take a look at when you are actually a part of sieging a castle. So here is a castle that we did take part in actually besieging and taking over. Now, this percentage bar at the bottom here is dependent upon your presence within the castle siege. Were you on the walls? Did you storm? In this case, I was actually just hacking at the gate because I wanted to test some stuff. So don't hack at the gate. But if you are an archer and you're out on the sidelines and you're shooting up and destroying people that are actually on the parapets and the towers, this increases this percentage. Now, right now, I don't have enough influence. You need about 50 influence to influence this vote. You can see here that I've got Ospear, another nobleman, who has kind of weighed in and said, you know what, Rigord, he did a really good job on this siege. I want it to go to him. Now, the majority rule is still for Ekerend. Now, this should, when I press abstain, go to Durthert, and I might be wrong here. The AI seems to be very funky about who actually gets it, unless you can do something to kind of be the tiebreaker here. So we'll do an abstain, and then after this, I'll show you what happens once we can actually influence the vote, and then hopefully get a castle for ourselves. We'll click abstain, and see, and it bumps him up to 1%. Yeah, well, actually, it went to Ekerend. So, interestingly enough, this has been different than what I've been experiencing when I've been doing this prior to this video. I've been testing a couple little bits. Okay, what happens when I abstain here? Who gets it here and there? Like, for instance, I had 80% majority, but I couldn't influence the vote, and it still went to Durthert. So, there's a very interesting dichotomy with this that I think that it will never go to you, and this is speculation, it will never go to you if you can't influence the vote. That's at least what I've experienced in the 5 or 6 castles that I've come across. But let's see what happens when we can influence the vote. Okay, after a lot of romping around, doing a ton of stuff, I was able to do damage to a castle and essentially have my guys really kind of vote for me in my favor here, right? They all threw their influence into me. They threw a little bit more. So I'm going to use 100 of my influence to see if I can take this castle over from Aldrich over here. And look! I've gotten my own castle here. So really what this came down to was simply being in good relation with a lot of the other lords. That way they threw their favor towards me when it came to actually fighting in the castle itself and winning it over. I didn't do anything any different than I've done for any other castle. Really what it comes down to again is your strong relations and your ability to influence above 50% into one of these castles. Now I have loaded this save multiple times to try and see what this outcome is like. Anytime I'm below 50%, I actually do not get the positive outcome for getting my castle. So a castle is tedious to come by because it's not so simple as just simply sieging it and taking it over. What it really comes down to is your ability to build up relations with your other lords, have a strong amount of influence already generated enough so that you can try and sway a vote. There is a chance though that your influence in that screen will be much higher. Like I said before, I've had it so that it was at 70 or 80%, and because I couldn't influence it anymore, I couldn't kind of cast a vote in my own favor, then it went to the faction leader. So I think that the whole voting portion for castles is still a little bugged, but if you are having trouble getting your own castle and trying to really start your own kingdom as a result, I encourage you to, again, A, become a vassal, B, increase all your relations with all of the other lords, C, get your influence up as high as you can before doing it, and then just push yourself above 50%. Those seem to be the big 4 or 5 criteria that are required to secure a castle for yourself. Otherwise, it looks like there's some sort of bug in the system and it doesn't kind of roll the dice in your favor, and it decides to just say, okay, well, we're going to give the castle to the leader. And I'm not really sure if that's intended or if it's something that's going to be changed because this is early access. A lot of this stuff seems to be kind of a little bare bones when it comes to voting for the castles, and this is just simply Valandia. I know that some other kingdoms have a different process when it comes to castles. So, and it also could be dependent upon your policies that you have in order. If you have policies that make it so that your military generals get more influence, it would help you out in this process. So I think that to get a castle, it really depends on your playthrough, where you're at in your certain kingdom and the policies and so on and so forth. But for the most part, I have very little policies enacted in Valandia here. So hopefully this should kind of give you a base quote-unquote control of what it takes to secure a castle in your name for your kingdom. All right, so here we are with another castle that I've taken over. And in this one, I was up close and personal doing as much damage as I could. Now, the difference is that I didn't like charge ahead. So what you really have to do is make sure you're staying with the army. As soon as they go to put ladders on the wall, be there mounting the ladders, mount the ladder, get up there, start doing some damage, and then get inside and start killing people. I've noticed that the more you kill, the more percentage you get towards owning the castle. So I could abstain, but I don't think that will actually get me the vote. So I'm going to use my 50 leadership here, my 50 influence. And my current relation with Turiados is just terrible. And it still will go to Durthard here. So that should let you guys know it doesn't matter if you're at 100%, you still can lose the castle. So it just seems to be like, depending on how much influence you want to throw at it is how much you're going to get out of it. So I honestly say just kind of do what you can when it comes to these castles and throw as much influence as you can to actually secure it. Clearly, I was at 100. I posted the vote for myself, and it still didn't go in my favor. So I still think that the castle system is a little bugged right now, and I think that we'll probably be seeing this fixed with some other patches in the future, but this is just me kind of going through the steps here with you guys to show you that it really doesn't matter what percentage you're at. You could be at 100%, but I didn't put 100 influence into this one, so I didn't win the castle. So I'm not really sure if it's geared towards that percentage thing, if it's geared towards your individual relationship with the leaders, because I actually have good relationship with the leader of Landia, and I still didn't get the castle. And I didn't abstain. So there's a lot of weird factors going on right now that we should hopefully be able to discover in the coming weeks and months as we get closer to the full launch of Bannerlord. But I figured this was a good video to get out to you guys so you could kind of see what it's like to get a castle. Is it a fluke? Is it easy to do? What kind of process do you have to go through? So I'd say my recommendation is to get 100 influence, get those positive relationships, and then just kind of go from there. But hopefully this kind of helps you guys out with securing your castles for yourselves. If you do have any questions about castles, if you've done them yourselves and hey, this is what's worked for me, please go ahead and leave a comment. I'd love to get as much information as possible about building kingdoms, castles, and everything out to the greater populace. That way we can either report these things as bugs or say, hey, this is the kind of finicky system that's in place right now, and this is kind of how you have to game it. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment below, all that kind of cool action. But if you haven't picked up Bannerlord, I've put a link in the description. You can go ahead and pick it up through that link, and it will give you a Steam key, but it just kicks me back a 10% commission. It's a pretty minimally invasive way to support the channel, while at the same time picking up Bannerlord for yourself. But again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.